If your phone photos are looking nothing like the Apple ads, or your fancy camera is constantly disappointing you, then this video is for you. My name is Megan of Manual Mode for Moms, and I help moms take better photos every day using any device they have. And today we are talking about 5 super quick fixes that you can try right now to take better photos on any device. So the first tip I have for you is kind of woo-woo, but we're gonna go with it anyways. The tip is going to be to slow down. Okay, it is so easy for us, and we are so used to photography being extremely accessible on our phones and being able to just click that shutter as many times as we want, spray and pray, hope we got what we wanted. But I want to encourage you to actually slow down. It's the most important tip I can give you, and it's the hardest thing that my photography students say that they struggle with is trying to slow down and not getting overwhelmed. But when you do slow down, it really benefits you threefold. So the second tip I have for you is to clean your lens. And if we've slowed down, we take our phone or our device out of our pocket, we have time to clean off the lens. That's a great everyday tip that if you can get into the habit of doing that, you're gonna automatically be setting yourself up for success, right? So here's an example of an image that I took that I thought was gonna be fire, and then realized when it was too late that there was stuff all over my lens just from it being in my pocket. There's oils on our hands, on our face, mystery things in our diaper bags. So when your phone lens is dirty, it's gonna produce something to this effect, which feels like there's some kind of weird film on the image. It makes the colors feel off, the lighting isn't right. The other way it benefits us if we slow down is then we have time to check our composition, meaning what is actually inside of our frame. So if we're just whipping our phone out and taking the picture without much thought, there's probably distracting things in the background that are going to take away from the moment that we're trying to remember. So if you have the option to slow down and or make it that option, then you have time to look at the frame, see if there's any physical clutter in the background that you can remove, or maybe you can turn yourself or your subject to simplify the composition in the image a bit, which is then going to automatically produce a cleaner, nicer looking image. It'll feel more finished if there's not a bunch of busy clutter in the background. On top of that, for our third benefit to slowing down, you also have time to look at the light, because photography is all about light and lighting. That's gonna make or break your image, right? So I don't know if you've ever, for example, had people stare into the sun and take a picture and then try to smile. Really unflattering, first of all, to have everybody squinting into the sun. It's also super uncomfortable. So when you are looking at light, what I want you to look at is the highlights and the shadows. The highlights being the brightest parts of your image where the light is hitting the hardest. And then the shadows are obviously the darkest. So you can look at your subject and think, okay, where are my highlights? Where are my shadows? Is this the best option? Do I need to turn my subject, turn myself? Generally speaking, we want a light source that is above and in front of our subject because that's where the sun usually is, right? That's what we're used to seeing. That's our only natural light source that we see every day. However, you also then can look at the quality of the light, and sometimes that light coming from the sun is a little bit harsh. It creates a really strong contrast between those highlights and shadows. Highlights can get blown out, shadows can appear really dark and the line on them really severe. So typically speaking, you want a softer light, and some ways to achieve that can be to step into open shade that's facing the sun, or you can put your subject in front of a window facing the window, which will filter some of the sun, generally speaking, depending on what the light looks like outside. But when you've slowed down, you have time to look at that and think, okay, am I taking the best image that I can right now? Am I removing the clutter in the background? Am I using the light to the best of my ability? And on top of that, another little hidden benefit is that then we are reducing the overwhelm of all of the digital clutter in our life. So even though I love, again, how accessible phones have made photography to everyone, it has also added this extra layer of essentially stress to our lives, right? Because this digital clutter just piles up and piles up in the background. So when you slow down, you're inevitably going to be taking less photos, right? Because you're thinking through what you're doing. And then that reduces the overwhelm associated with photography on that digital clutter end of it. Similarly, again, tip number 4 that I have for you is to check your angle. So I don't know if you've ever tried doing this. I can't even do it because it puts a crick in my neck. It hurts so bad. If you think about how we typically ask kids to take a picture, we just like, look up here, smile, say cheese, right? First of all, cheese is not the most flattering thing for our faces. When we say cheese, it does emulate a smile, but it's not our smile, right? And as an adult even, I'm sure you can relate to like having someone gather you up for a photo, like, okay, everybody gather together. Now 1, 2, 3, say cheese. And they take one picture and you're like, okay, great, are we done? Like, are we good? Did I look good? Because I'm done with this. It's boring, right? Having your photo taken is boring. So when you're photographing children, I want you to check your angle and always, if possible, drop down to their eye level. Keep that phone level and plumb. So meaning not too much tilt one way or another, this way or that way. And then also keep the lens at their eye level. That's gonna feel sort of the simplest, the cleanest. It's just an easy way to take a nice photo of someone. And it's also gonna be the most comfortable. And then for tip number 5, while you're down there at eye level, I also want you to consider prompting over posing. And you've probably heard this before, but again, gathering people up, trying to get them to sit still and say cheese for the camera is super lame, not very exciting. If you're a child, it's even less exciting because there's a million other things you can be doing. So what I want you to consider is prompting in terms of like, maybe you have a joke you can tell them, you can ask them a question, you can try to play a game like Simon Says or red light, green light. Anything you can do to make taking a photo less boring, to make the person that you're taking a photo of more engaged and connected to you and the camera is gonna automatically result in a much better photo. Okay, then let's go ahead and review since I just flew through that, sorry. Tip number 1 is going to be to slow down. So take a deep breath, pull out your device, and then that's gonna enable you to tip number 2, clean off your lens and set yourself up for success. Make sure you're starting off on the right foot. And then you also have time to check your frame and your composition, see what's included in your photo and if you need to remove anything or change anything about where you are. Tip number 3, then you're gonna look at what does my light look like? How can I use it to the best of my abilities? What's gonna be the most flattering on my subject? Do I need to move myself or them? Which then moves us to tip number 4, where we check our angle. If we're photographing children, we wanna drop down to their eye level, make sure our phone is plumb and level and or our camera. Not to say that there's not a time for tilting your lens a little bit or doing like an overhead shot. I am just trying to tell you in general, if you want an instant fix or essentially a simpler, better looking photo right off the bat, try that and you will see a difference than if you just pull out your phone and take a picture randomly. And then tip number 5 is going to be prompt over pose. So try to keep your subject connected to and engaged with you and the camera to automatically have a better photo of them. If you would like more beginner-friendly, easy tips you can implement today, drop down to the description of this video and download my free Pretty Phone Photos Guide, which is 15 pages of information full of all of my best tips and tricks to take better photos today using any device that you have.